The Galactic Council hadn't convened in full assembly for 2 centuries. Not since the purge of the Drexy worlds. Now, the chamber buzzed, not with ceremony, but with tension. A hologram hovered at the center of the obsidian ring, Earth, turning slowly, bathed in artificial sunlight. Councillor Vran of Xyrix leaned forward, his crimson mandibles twitching. Unregistered energy spikes detected on Sol 3. Orbital silence persists. This is a direct violation of the peace accord. High Chair Essel folded his hands behind his back, his voice clipped. Peace requires compliance, not defiance. No one noticed the human ship until it vanished again. Cloaked. Silent. Half a galaxy away, snow cracked beneath thick boots as Commander Rafe Morgan trudged across the frozen expanse of northern Alberta. The cold bit into his beard. He liked that. It reminded him he was alive. A soft beat pulsed from beneath his parka. Not his calm. Not his sat-nav. Something older. Buried. He stopped, knelt, and brushed the frost aside to reveal a black plate the size of his palm. A voice emerged from it, neutral, genderless, deliberate. Rafe Morgan. Protocol Revenant is online. Immediate authorization required. He stared at it. That voice. He hadn't heard it in 20 years. Aegis, he muttered. I thought you died in the fires with the rest of us. Your command code remains valid. Humanity requires a strategist. Accept control. Morgan shook his head and looked skyward, as if he could see the Xyrixian fleet already. He couldn't. Not yet. You built Earth to forget. Why wake me now? Because forgetting was the camouflage. Remembering is the trigger. He stood slowly, the weight of memory falling heavier than the snow. His wife. His sons. Burned beneath orbital bombardments during the old siege. He had vowed never to return. And yet. The bunker door hissed open, untouched by time. Cold lights flickered to life as Morgan stepped inside. The walls were still lined with dust-covered monitors and maps, Earth's ancient enemies etched into the glass. Access granted, said Aegis. Reconstructing command interface. The room came alive. Holograms pulsed. Satellite arrays locked into orbit. Silent hibernation broke. Earth's mind, once scattered across fractured continents, was reassembling itself. Piece by piece. Thought by thought. Morgan's eyes narrowed at the tactical overlay. A dozen Xyrixian patrols. 2 full cruisers parked beyond Neptune's shadow. They weren't here to observe. They were staking ground. He ran a hand over the control panel. It hummed beneath his touch. You didn't just wake me, he said. You waited until there was no one left to argue. You were the last strategist trained before global unity. Unbiased. Detached. Dangerous. He smirked. That's one way to say bastard. Aegis didn't laugh. It couldn't. But it did pause, a flicker in its tone. You are Earth's final commander. He leaned back, exhaled, and gave a slow nod. Then let's remind the stars what silence means. In the black void beyond Saturn, Xyrixian sensors blinked, just once. A reading too fast to verify. Something moving. Then nothing. On board the cruiser Varker, Subcommander Talon hissed through his mask. Phantom spikes. Atmospheric ghosts. His superior, Admiral Vurak, growled. Earth has no phantom technology. The Council stripped their war tech centuries ago. But the readings returned. Cleaner this time. Faster. Lower orbit. Talon turned, his voice low. Permission to deploy observation drones. Denied. Vurak stepped closer to the viewplate. Let them know we're here. We want them watching. On Earth, Morgan watched the Xyrixian transmission pierce through deep space bandwidth. Citizens of Terra. You are under peaceful council supervision. You will remain in your cities. Do not engage with orbital units. Morgan didn't laugh. He just tapped the console once. Satellites blinked off across the southern hemisphere. Another tap, North Atlantic signal disruption. The sky above Iceland turned black. One final command. A sound no one had heard in decades filled the chamber. The Revenant theme. Earth's war anthem. Broadcast reply? Aegis asked. No. Morgan folded his arms. Let silence reply. Louder than words. Far above, the Zyrixians waited for Earth to answer. They would not like the reply. The Zyrixian dreadnought Varker drifted with imperial arrogance above the blue marble of Earth. Its hull shimmered with resonance shields, its weapon systems idle, but primed. From orbit, Earth appeared serene. Untouched. Vulnerable. Subcommander Talon stared at the silence with suspicion. They should have answered by now. Admiral Vurok remained unmoved. Silence is submission. They're cowed. Talon checked the sensor grid again. One anomaly pulsed, then vanished. Sir, permission to rescan. There's distortion in the lower stratosphere. Ghosts, Talon. Earth is good at theatrics. Nothing more. Thousands of miles below, Commander Rafe Morgan stood within Earth's command chamber, deep beneath Canadian tundra. He stared at the holographic globe, watching Zyrixian satellites glide overhead like vultures. The room vibrated with low-frequency hums, power surging into systems long dormant. Monitors awakened. Data streamed. Earth was waking up. Status on the black signal? He asked. Aegis, the defense AI, replied without inflection. 10 of 12 vault sites online. Satellite sublayer fully operational. Continent-to-continent relays active. Morgan's fingers tightened around the edge of the console. What about Scout Command? A new voice cut in, clear and sharp. Still waiting on your final go, Commander. He turned. The figure standing at the doorway wore a reinforced flight suit with burn marks and frostburn seams. Captain Imani Reyes, Earth's youngest tactical fleet commander, stepped into the dim light. I thought you were off-world, Morgan said. Mars didn't die. It just went quiet. We've been waiting for your signal. She tossed him an Euro key, the symbol of fleet authority, before standing beside the console. You're still using manual commands? She teased. Stone Age much? Stone Age build pyramids. I'll manage. Rhea smirked, but the moment passed quickly. Her eyes narrowed at the tactical display. They've positioned themselves too wide. Classic intimidation spread. They think we're reactive. Morgan nodded. Then let's be deliberate. Above, Zyrixian subdrones deployed into Earth's upper atmosphere. They weren't designed to attack, just observe. But something strange happened. The moment each drone passed 500 kilometers, it vanished. No explosion. No signal loss. Just deletion. On board the Varker, alarms chimed. We lost feed from recon units 1 through 5. Vurok frowned. Retrieve and rescan. Talon hesitated. Sir, we can't retrieve what no longer exists. Back in the command chamber, Reyes zoomed in on the orbitals. The Phantom Wall is fully online, she confirmed. Our satellites aren't passive anymore. Each one's armed and cloaked. Morgan exhaled through his nose, the weight of reactivation settling in. I remember when they were weather monitors. Reyes gave a half-smile. That's the lie we sold. Earth doesn't disarm. It disguises. He looked at her. And we disguised it all too well. Now they think we're prey. She replied with a quiet, deadly certainty. Then let them come closer. Aegis' voice interrupted. Encrypted message received from Council Command. Demanding compliance under Galactic Supervision Clause. Morgan rolled his shoulders, bones cracking from age and tension. Play it. The Council's message played. Citizens of Sol 3. Your silence is noted as non-cooperation. You are hereby placed under Class B observation. Comply, or force will be authorized. Reyes raised an eyebrow. That's bold. Morgan didn't blink. That's desperation. They're bluffing. But not for long. He tapped a new command. Across the southern hemisphere, the black signal pulsed, a low-frequency code that reawakened hidden bunkers, orbital war arrays, and drone nests buried in volcanic trenches. Aegis spoke. Signal accepted. Global Unified Protocol active. Morgan nodded. It's time we told them we're still here. In orbit, the Valkyr's crew began to panic. Dozens of their systems were being pinged, not hacked but scanned. As if Earth was mapping them from the inside out. Talon's hands shook. They're inside our network. Sir, I'm seeing signal reflection loops, replays of our own communications sent back at us on delay. Jamming protocol! Vurak roared. But it was too late. Every screen on the bridge went black. Then, a single symbol appeared, Earth's old military sigil. A cracked planet with fire rising from its core. Underneath, words appeared in Galactic Standard. We see you now. Back underground, Reyes stared at the signal confirmation. They're scrambling. Morgan didn't respond. He was already launching the next sequence, Revenant Drift, activating a constellation of cloaked war satellites built to simulate planetary debris. Armed. Autonomous. Silent. Aegis confirmed. The Revenant constellation is online. Weapon status cold. Awaiting command trigger. Morgan gave no verbal reply. Only a nod. Reyes turned toward him. So, what's the play? Morgan's eyes were steel. We don't strike first. We let them drown in their arrogance. And when they scream for help, we send a whisper. Far above, the Zyrixian fleet repositioned, closer this time. More confident. More exposed. And far below, Earth waited. Smiling. The Zyrixian fleet breached lower orbit in formation, a towering crescent of warships bristling with plasma lances, magnetic accelerators, and energy siphons. From a distance, it looked like an executioner's blade hanging over Earth's throat. Admiral Vurak addressed the fleet through the command net, his voice cold and absolute. Maintain full targeting lock. No fire unless provoked. Let them blink first. In the silence that followed, sensors flared. One by one, Zyrixian ships lost visual telemetry. Instruments flickered, glitched, then flatlined. What was once clear turned murky, like ships drifting into fog where there should be none. We're losing optical feed. Talon snapped. Sir, it's not external interference, it's internal inversion. Vurak frowned. Inversion of what? Talon hesitated. Ourselves. They're reflecting our own sensor data back at us, layered, distorted, and delayed. We're seeing ghosts of our own formation. The fleet had not yet fired. But Earth had already pulled the trigger, quietly, elegantly. Deep below the Earth's crust, Commander Rafe Morgan observed the Zyrixian fleet through lenses sharper than light. Aegis stood by, sifting through tactical overlays like a composer arranging notes. Captain Reyes paced behind him, her voice tight. They're still holding formation. Overconfident. And worse, organized. Morgan remained still, eyes narrowed. A show of power before impact. They want us to flinch. She gestured toward the live orbital feed. You really want to let them get that close? He finally turned to her, tone measured. We built these defenses to test our restraint. If we unleash everything now, we become the monsters they expect. Reyes didn't argue. But her jaw tightened. Aegis spoke calmly. Zyrixian Command has deployed 6 planetary probes. All are within strike range. Morgan nodded. Deploy Revenant 4. Only one. Let it whisper. High above, a single object emerged from behind the moon, small, silent, unseen. Revenant 4, disguised as interstellar debris, spun toward the fleet. Its skin, composed of dark matter mesh, shifted color and mass to remain undetectable. Inside the Zyrixian flagship, warning sirens flared. Something was inside their perimeter. Something fast. Before they could react, the object fragmented midair, 6 micropods arcing toward their outermost dreadnought. Shields raised! Talon barked. Too late. The micropods didn't explode. They didn't emit heat or light. They simply embedded into the hull and disappeared. Seconds later, the ship's systems shut down. In space, the dreadnought drifted, lifeless. No damage. No external breach. Just dead. In Earth's command center, Reyes stared in stunned silence. You deactivated them? Morgan replied without looking. We turned off their confidence. That's louder than an explosion. How? Aegis answered. The pods carried quantum desync charges, scrambled the ship's time-state sensors. They now exist milliseconds ahead of their own processors. Reyes gave a low whistle. That's cold. Morgan nodded. And merciful. On the Zyrixian flagship, chaos erupted. Admiral Vurak gripped the edge of his command seat. What in the abyss was that? Talon's claws trembled. One of our cruisers, it's still intact, but we've lost all control. Internal time sequence collapse. Sir, I don't understand. Vurak's voice dropped to a growl. Then stop trying to understand and return fire. Earth saw it coming. A flash ignited in the black. A Zyrixian cruiser fired a warning arc of plasma across Earth's upper atmosphere. It grazed nothing. But it screamed aggression. Morgan responded instantly. Revenant 3 through 6, authorized to fire countermeasures. Disable only. In the void above Earth, 6 dormant satellites lit up, beacons of invisible light and compressed gravitational charge. They didn't aim at the Zyrixian ships. They aimed around them. Gravity twisted. The space between molecules warped. And suddenly, the Zyrixian fleet found itself pivoting involuntarily, ships rotating out of formation, drifting like leaves in an unseen current. Not a single human weapon struck their hulls. But they were now vulnerable. Scattered. Off balance. In orbit, screams echoed through Zyrixian calms. Vurak stared at his spiraling formation and slammed his clawed fist on the console. We're being hurted! Talon shouted above the noise. Sir! They didn't damage us, they moved the space around us. They're steering gravity. Vurak's expression twisted with something alien to his species, fear. Back on Earth, Aegis spoke again. Zyrixian internal channels are cycling distress calls. Reyes leaned over the console. They're asking for backup? From who? Morgan turned away from the screen, heading toward the chamber's center platform. No one's coming. Reyes followed, voice low. So now what? Morgan looked upward, toward the stars. We let them stare into the teeth of a planet they thought was sleeping. He issued one final command. Open the veil. Above the South Pacific, the ocean shimmered and rose. A ripple spread across the sea as the dread platform, once submerged, surfaced. A floating fortress miles wide, camouflaged for decades as seafloor tectonics. Its towers unfolded, solar panels adjusted, and launch silos cracked open to reveal dormant titans. The Zyrixian fleet watched in horror. What Earth had hidden beneath its oceans was not just defense. It was deterrence. The Galactic Council chamber stood in stunned silence. Even the ambient hum of surveillance drones had stilled, as though the very room held its breath. And then, a tear in space. It wasn't a portal in the conventional sense. Not a gateway, not a wormhole. It was Earth's own design, a gravitational incision cut clean through reality, stabilized by quantum anchors on the lunar side. From it descended a man. No guards. No entourage. No armor. Just a tattered coat, frost still clinging to the seams, and the eyes of someone who'd buried worlds. Commander Rafe Morgan stepped onto the central dais and looked up at 1,000 alien faces, counselors, spectators, warlords, all seated in a spiraling arena that had never once bowed to Earth. You didn't ask to meet me, Morgan began, his voice even. You force your way into our skies, armed and confident, expecting silence to mean surrender. His gaze swept across them. But you never asked what silence meant to us. Whispers broke out. Zyrixian delegates stiffened. A Krell noble twitched its tentacles in alarm. Even the Korthuan, who hadn't flinched in 3 centuries, blinked. Morgan took another step forward. You called it an observation fleet. We watched it crawl toward us, masked in diplomacy. You broadcast peace, but carried conquest in your shadow. A Corellian counselor interrupted with a hiss. You escalated the conflict. Earth disabled our ships. You attacked council personnel. Morgan cut him off with a raised hand. We answered your aggression with restraint. Every weapon we used was precise, non-lethal. We left you intact, not because we were merciful, but because we wanted you to remember what held back looks like. A silent projection bloomed behind him, live feeds of Zyrixian cruisers drifting helplessly above Earth, systems offline, no visible damage. Another feed displayed the Dread platform surfacing from the Pacific, its arsenal untouched, never fired. What you witnessed, Morgan continued, was Earth sending a message. One we've withheld for centuries. A council elder narrowed her eyes. And what message is that, human? Morgan smiled, just slightly. We never stopped preparing. Back on Earth, Captain Imani Reyes stood within the subterranean command hall, watching Morgan's speech unfold in real time. Around her, Earth's core command staff worked in silence, maintaining full planetary defense readiness. Aegis' voice broke the still. Galactic data streams indicate widespread council shock. No retaliatory orders. No fleet movements. Stalemate confirmed. Reyes muttered, arms crossed. They're rattled. Good. She glanced toward the ceiling, a symbolic gesture toward the stars. Don't let your guard down. Pride rebounds faster than missiles. Understood, Aegis replied. All defense systems remain active. In the council chamber, Morgan continued. You never considered what would happen if Earth stopped reacting and started planning. You saw a fractured world with fading influence. We let you see that. He paused. But we were never fractured. Not truly. Not after the siege. We unified in the shadows, one world, one defense, one doctrine, disguise. Prepare. Endure. A Varnathi delegate spoke cautiously. What do you want, human? Power? Revenge? Morgan exhaled. We want the right to be left alone. To exist without orbiting fleets. Without whispered threats wrapped in treaties. And we want memory. Your memory. He looked at each of them. When your children learn about Earth, we want them to tremble, not from fear, but from respect. Teach them that we answered violence with discipline. Teach them what happens when a species evolves not to conquer, but to endure conquest. A heavy silence fell. Then, the council's high chair rose. He was ancient, even by galactic standards, with skin like petrified bark and eyes that had seen stars burn out. And if we return? He asked softly. Morgan didn't hesitate. Then we won't answer. We'll end. Later, aboard the descending transport vessel, Morgan sat quietly, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. Aegis patched through. Transmission received. Council has ratified Earth's sovereignty mandate. All future contact requires human-initiated consent. He nodded slowly. Good. They'll leave us alone, for now. You seem unsatisfied. Aegis noted. I'm not, Morgan replied. I just know history. This wasn't victory. It was delay. He stared at the blue and green sphere below. And that's enough. For now. At dusk, Morgan walked alone through the remnants of his family's cabin, deep in the northern woods. The roof was gone, vines climbing up cracked walls. But the chair on the porch was still there. He sat. Listened. Wind rustled the trees. Birds called. No alarms. No comms. Only Earth. He reached into his coat and pulled out a weathered datapad. One final message scrolled across the screen. Protocol Revenant complete. Humanity is remembered. He powered it down. Then, with slow, deliberate care, he buried the datapad beneath the old maple beside the porch. Above him, Earth's sky glittered. Some stars were real. Some were watching. But none dared move closer. Not anymore.